got into skydiving because I met the Bill Elfers and Dick Shuford and Lou Sanborn. Was one of their cohorts, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was a rigger. I had a couple parachutes I'd made up on the job that I took out of the trash bin. You know, Air Force didn't want them, but I did. And I loved my job there, but I still wanted to jump, and got with them. I got with those guys in Fort Lauderdale. I knew there was some jumping going on there, and I'd go up there and I could never find out anything about it because it was against the law down then. You had to go out and sneak out and do it, you know, jump out in the bushes and shit. And I'd go out in the airport and say, yeah, they jumped, they've already gone, you know. But they had heard about me because I had made about 9, 10 free falls on my own out in the Everglades, hidden from everybody. But my supervisor with the Air Force knew about it, and he just loved me doing it. He thought I was the greatest guy in the world doing that. But I met Bill Elfers, and Lou was just moving north. He was going back to Ohio. He was going to school down in Fort Lauderdale, carpentry school or something. And then he was going back to Ohio. So I only saw him like twice. And when I was trying to hook up with those guys. And we ended up jumping together, going through the hard times of being chased by cops and everything else. And hard to get airplanes to jump out of. Nobody wanted to do that. They were afraid of the old law about falling objects from aircraft. And they could get you for that if they wanted. And, you know, it was hard to make parachute jumps without going to jail. And we kept at it and just started a club called the Broward Parachute Club, Fort Lauderdale. And within about 2 years, we bought our own airplane. We had enough, I think we had at least 75 members. And we started training students. I did all the training. And now we're getting where Jacques had already got the government to let us jump. I mean, now it was legal. That's when we started to go, when we could do it without going to jail. And they were starting the Orange, first commercial center in the U.S. And of course I had a job, and the guys that were in the club had a job, but we weren't interested in starting a commercial. We didn't think it'd work, really. Who's going to pay that kind of money to keep a place like he's got going, you know? But we went and got the club going, and within a year it got quite large. I think probably 100. We had over 100 members. We were putting out students like you wouldn't believe. And that came with your membership fee, you know, with a jump course. But we were having problems with the airport we were at. It was pretty busy airport. It was kind of interfering with both of our airport and us. And we had a club meeting, and I decided that we should. They had a big, beautiful, abandoned airfield, Naval Airfield, out of Davey, Florida, that hadn't been used since the Second World War. And I thought, what a great drop zone. So I called the Navy people in Jackson, Atlanta, their land people, and told them that the airport was abandoned, but we'd like to use it. If you're not going to use it, you know, could we rent it, lease it, use it? And they gave me permission that we could use the airport. We had to keep it locked. It was fenced in, and we had to keep it locked when we weren't there. We had to sign a waiver that we wouldn't hold them responsible for deaths or injuries. And they told us, you know, only our members should be in there, you know, people that belong in there should be in there. But that ended up not right, because once we started jumping and had a lot of students, our sky was full of parachutes. People were coming in droves to watch, you know. Then the drag racers, they wanted to use part of it, so I let them do it, you know. That brought more people. And we used it for 2 years, and it was really great, man. Free rent, I didn't have to pay rent or anything, you know. We were still a club. We weren't doing it for a living. We were all still working. And when Sunday afternoon, I was packing a parachute, and really busy. A guy gets out of a great big Cadillac and with a fancy suit, and I could tell he looked like a lawyer. oh shit, one of the students is probably suing us, you know. But I asked for the man in charge, and they pointed me out, and he came over, and I shook his hand, he told me who he was. And he says, you'll have to evict this airport today before dark. I said, well, I have a permission here, it's in my car from the Navy, in writing. You know, he said, it's not the Navy's anymore. It belongs to the state of Florida. The Navy has donated this airport. We're going to build a Broward College on it. And about broke his heart. It broke my heart. I mean, everybody just was in awe. I mean, it was just, we had so good for a couple of years, you know. And we even had a bar right across the street. You know, it was out in the country. We had a bar across the street, but we had to leave it. I think for about 3 months we couldn't find any place that would let us jump. So we jumped Outlaw and then the cow pasture, anything that was big enough to land a parachute, and then we'd send a truck out to get them, you know. And that's when I had made my first jump at Clewiston, Florida, in an abandoned airfield, Second World War airfield, that was at that time 10 miles from the nearest house, you know, and totally abandoned. And I had made my first, I think, 10 jumps, something like that, out there by myself. And I thought, Clewiston is still there, and I'm sure it's still abandoned, you know. But it was a long way. It's 100 miles from Miami, and everybody was going to bitch about it, I knew, but if they wanted to jump, we were going to have to find some place we can. And I think it was on Monday, I got the pilot who was, and I said, I did some research on Sunday night, and I found that a guy named George Heinley had leased that airport and repaired airplanes there. But it would still be an ideal place, beautiful drop zone, because it was so clear for so many millions of acres of pasture, and nice runways, and you know, just ideal. And so I got the club pilot jumping our way. I bought a 180 by this time, and our 180, and I said, it was after I got off work, I said, fly me to Clewiston, it was 100 miles. I said, just keep climbing all the way there. He said, what you going to do? I said, I'm going to jump on that fucking airport and show that guy that's got it that it's safe, you know. Because somebody, you know, we called up there, one of the jumpers did, and the guy told him, you're crazy, you can't change, you know, we don't want any dead people here. Yeah, I got to change this guy's mind, you know. So he kept climbing. We got to 16,000 feet, and I bailed out. It was a beautiful day. It was after work, and of course, I see the hangars open, and there's cars parked out there, and I pulled about 1,200 feet, in my little cheapo, and double L. And by the time I was halfway down, there was about 4 people outside looking, and I put that damn parachute right in the front door of that hangar and stood there and walked over and said, are you George Heinley? And he says, yes, I am. And I reached out my hand and I shook his hand and told him I was Paul Poppenhager, and I got a deal for him. And I also told the pilot, keep circling, because I don't know if I'm going to need help or not. Before you land, you know, I don't want him landing and confiscating the damn 180 or something. And the plane still circled around. He could walk right over it, you know. And he was known as a bad guy. Everybody hated him. Thought he was a mean bastard, you know. He just came right over, shook my hand, and said, that's great. We'd like to have something like that here. I almost died. I couldn't believe it. Never been treated, jumpers being treated like that, you know. So, by the time, I told the pilot, I said, if you see the airplane, if you see my parachute canopy, it was yellow. And I had dyed it yellow. And I said, if you see it laying on the ground, stretched out, land. Well, I'm talking to this guy, but I got it in my arms all rolled up. As soon as he said, fine, I walked over on the ramp and pulled out the parachute, and here come Johnny. You know. And went back, had a club meeting, and the next weekend everybody was at Clewiston, and we stayed there till 64. I think it was 60. When did we move to Clewiston? 64 or 65? Yeah. To Indiantown, yeah. But we stayed there. It was great. It was a great place. A lot of guys here today have jumped there, They had just enough motels to handle everybody in this little town. And the first meet was there. Yeah, the first South Florida parachute meet was there, and the first conference meet was there for the Southeast. We had a lot of meets there. We had the annual Christmas meet there. And actually, we had started that in Davey. See, we were the first club in the state of Florida, the first jumpers. DeLand came along probably a couple years after we started, and a lot of those people were guys out of ours that had moved, started something up north Florida. And Zephyr Hills hadn't started. It started as a club a couple years after we were at Clewiston. A nice guy, I can't remember his name, that ran the club there, and we used to go up there from jump there and that. Clubs at that time, they were all clubs, and guys in DeLand started. We were the first club. Then others started springing up, DeLand, Z Hills, and we started having meets, but between clubs, different times of year. We got the Christmas one. DeLand got the Thanksgiving one. And then there was a big fight between Thanksgiving and DeLand at Zephyr Hills. We all went to each other's meets. I mean, we'd take the whole bunch, They'd have a meet at DeLand, and all of our guys would go, and everybody else we went to all of them. And they all came to ours, and we had a pretty neat outfit around for the southern part of Florida, Midland southern part of Florida. We knew everybody. Not that way anymore so much, but I think jumps at that time were like $2 for a low one and $4 for a high one. Of course, if you made $100 a week, you could make it all right. See, I don't know what else to tell you.